Welcome back to another Explainer, everyone. Today, we're diving into a really profound and moving piece of literature. We're going to completely unravel the deep themes hidden inside Aston Morgan's amazing poem, The Lost Word. This is so much more than just reading words on a page. It's a real literary analysis. We're getting right to the core of it, so let's jump in.
Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever stopped to actually think about that title, The Lost Word? It sets up this incredible, almost paradoxical mystery right off the bat. Think about it. If you drop your keys, they're lost, right? If you misplace your wallet, it's lost. But a word? A word literally isn't a physical object. You can't just shove it in a drawer and leave it there by accident. So how on earth does an intangible word actually get misplaced or lost? That massive question is the anchor for everything we're exploring today.
To unravel this deep subtext, we've got a really thrilling roadmap. First up, a lost word. Then, society and women's voices. After that, we'll look at the specific words know, me, and am. And finally, someone else's voice.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, a lost word.
Before we start pulling apart the art itself, we need to lay down the historical foundation. It's super important context, especially if you're prepping for an exam. So, Aston Morgan was born in 1970. This particular poem was published in 2001, and it was actually featured as part of a larger poetry collection called Beyond College Distance. Got it? Good. Knowing exactly where and when this poem sits in history gives us the perfect launchpad. So, the crucial point is, because a word isn't a physical object, we have to look for the implied meaning. The poet uses personification to make this incredibly clear. Think about it. When we lose the physical object, we can't use it anymore, right? Well, it's the exact same concept here. If a word is forgotten, or if someone has been actively prevented from using a word over a really long period of time because of suppression, it becomes as good as lost. Simply put, not using a word is literally the same as losing it.
Moving right along to Section 2, Society and Women's Voices. Let's look at exactly why certain words vanish. And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict of the whole piece. Our source maps out this highly restrictive, step-by-step trajectory that a woman often faces in a traditional society. It doesn't just happen overnight. It starts right at the beginning with childhood conditioning. Little girls are taught super early that certain behaviors, certain freedoms are just off-limits. Then, as she grows, this morphs into being treated as totally subservient within the family. Finally, that expectation completely cements. She is expected to be a homemaker, literally prioritizing the house and everyone else's needs way above her own individual identity.
Because of all those intense societal rules, the poem hits us with this unbelievably striking metaphor. The woman in the poem hasn't just, politely set her words aside. No, the text tells us she's sweeping these suppressed words under the carpet like unwanted garbage. Just let that visual sink in for a second. It takes this abstract idea of psychological suppression and makes it so incredibly visceral and real. She is literally taking parts of her own vocabulary, her own identity, and actively burying them out of sight.
That brings us to Section 3, know, me, and am. Now we're zooming in on exactly what was swept away.
So what exactly is the missing vocabulary here? It's the word know, the word me, and the word am. Now I want to be super clear here. These are definitely not just random everyday words you toss around. These three words are the absolute, most fundamental assertions of individuality, existence, and self-worth that a person has. When a woman is discouraged from using these exact words, society is essentially discouraging her from asserting her own basic independence. It's a huge deal.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the profound contrast between yes and no. In a very traditional, restrictive setup, spitting out a forced yes, even when you're exhausted or totally disagree, is the easy path. It completely represents subservience, having zero choice, and just echoing whatever everyone else wants. But the word no? Wow. That word grants a sense of true freedom and pure independence. But here's the catch for the woman in the poem. Reclaiming that empowering no is unbelievably hard. Saying no is a massive, towering challenge to the very fabric of the society she lives in.
Here is a totally fascinating analytical point from our source. And by the way, this is a fantastic detail to remember for your exams. If you try to replace the lost words know and me with a collective word like us, you completely destroy the poem's true meaning. Why is that? Well, because us represents a group, right? A collective unit, like the family or society. But the entire tragedy of this poem is the loss of the individual identity. And you absolutely cannot reclaim an individual personal identity by swapping it out for a collective group term.
It just doesn't work.
And that leads us right into our final chapter, Section 4, Someone Else's Voice.
Her mouth was full of someone's tongue. Wow. I'm just going to pause for a second to let the heavy impact of that imagery really sink in. It is such a striking and honestly a deeply uncomfortable final line, isn't it?
Let's move to the subtext and see how this builds into a truly tragic reality. The poet obviously isn't saying she literally physically lacks a tongue, she has one, but the absolute tragedy here is that she speaks with someone else's voice. Because she spent her entire life aggressively suppressing her no, her me, and her am, she is now entirely, 100% conditioned to only say what others expect her to say. She's completely adopted the language of the society around her. And the saddest part? In doing so, she has totally erased her own decision-making power and her ability to ever break free.
And that, my friends, brings us to the ultimate takeaway. Aston Morgan's The Lost Word is way more than just a critique of traditional societal expectations placed on women. It's a mirror held straight up to all of us. When you strip away the words that define your personal boundaries and your individuality, you lose yourself. Period. So I'm going to leave you with this provocative question to chew on today. Look closely at your own life, your own vocabulary, your own daily choices. Are you speaking in your own true, authentic voice? Or are you simply echoing the expectations